Welcome back, Internet. Today, the world brings to us the '07 Honda Fit with the 1.5 liter four cylinder. The story goes the vehicle has intermittent loss of power and potential starting issues. This vehicle is actually the second time that I've seen it. I think it came last year sometime for a similar issue, and I could not find anything wrong with it. I could not get it to mess up. I don't remember if there were codes stored or not. I've got the old history on it somewhere. But the short version is it came last time with a drivability issue that was intermittent, and I could not find anything wrong with it because it would not mess up while it was here. This time it has apparently gotten much worse to the point where they don't want to drive it anymore. So, from a diagnostic perspective, that is where we want it. We want it to be broken. I think we still got a good start on this car. But just to give you another piece of info, it showed up on the rollback, and when I went to get the keys out of it, I just pulled the keys right out of the ignition. Rollback driver left them there for me, and took them inside the office, let it sit for a couple of days as I worked it through the queue. Went back out to it a couple of days ago to get it in the garage, and the battery was totally dead, like totally dead. I started looking around a little bit. Somehow, I don't know if this caused it or not. It's a little weird, but this is what I know. When I went back out to bring it in, somehow the shifter was left in neutral. The parking brake was up, but the key come right out of it. I pulled the key out of the ignition with no issue. I didn't even look at the shifter. I just ran to it, grabbed the key, and run back in the office. I don't know if that scenario has caused the battery to die or something else. We do have something else going on. Loud cars driving by. There is some sort of other weird electrical issue with this car that affects the lights. So the dash lights will flicker on and off, kind of like with the turn signal, and the headlight will flash like it's a turn signal with like the key off. Like you open the door and it starts doing this flicker thing, and then it'll quit. It's a little weird. I think I've got an old video from the last time I was here on it. I'll see if I can overlay that here. Hopefully you're looking at that now. And I don't think that's our main concern today, unless it's tied to the running issue. That said, I left the battery charger on it, slow charge, make sure it charged back up all right. It did charge back up okay, and when it charged back up fully, that flashing issue is gone. So I don't know if that's just a result of having some module get weird because the voltage was low from a dead battery or whatever. But now that the battery's charged, it started up, let it run for a minute while I was in it earlier, and it stalled after like probably 30 seconds of running. Okay, start it back up. Stalls after like 15 seconds of running. Like, all right, start it up again, and now it's like 10 seconds. It'll stall. Just did the pre-check on her. Overall, the car's got a fair amount of miles on it, but it's in pretty good shape. It really is. So that said, since the battery died, the check engine light is on now when it stalled. But since the battery died, I don't know if we lost any other history. But that's what I know right now. I've not scanned it yet or anything. Let's go get our scan tool hooked up to it, see what codes we got, and see if we got any freeze frame, and get going from there. Righto, it looks like we have two codes in our engine computer. Autel made an update too. This is pretty cool. At least when you get the cars with all the modules. Anyway, sidetracked. List. Crank sensor, no signal. This also does have a slightly long crank. Temporary and permanent. Well, that looks pretty straightforward. That'd be cool. That's it for all of them. Let me see if I can find some live data that's relevant, and I guess we're going to go after that dude. Here we're just looking at some freeze frame data. It looks like this might be our stall issue. So 1400 RPM, 77 degrees coolant temp, 90 IAT, and tipped out of it. Blah, blah, blah. Yep, just reading a 1 for fuel because it's probably not in feedback. Yep, open loop condition. All of this looks very consistent with a shortly after start issue. So I think this is our code, or at least our freeze frame for our stalling issue right after we start it. Okie dokie, some basic data for cam crank stuff, engine speed, and I got misfire down there. It's not misfiring, at least it didn't feel like it, but we'll go ahead and crank it. That one was a fairly short crank. And then, I don't know, this is kind of bouncing around the 60s. I don't really know. I don't know exactly what these mean, the no pulse, especially if it's not changing or if it's going up and down. I'm not very familiar with that. We'll just let this run for maybe 30 to 60 seconds and see if it stalls. It has not stalled yet, and this is the longest it's been running since. I'm going to turn the battery charger off. I don't know if that is interfering with anything or not, but I did leave the charger on. Turn this off. Alright, charger's off. And she's still running. Well, that is fantastic, is it not? Let's try and shut it off and see if it restarts. So shut her off. Probably lose our data here in a second. Our data's gone, so the computer's at least asleep. Alright, let's go ahead and key back on. And crank. Starts right up. Data came back. Well, this is entertaining. Guess I'm not 100% sure what to do in the moment. I believe we'll just do some checks anyway. We'll grab wiring diagram for the crank sensor and pin it out with the scope and see if it looks wonky at all, but in the moment she's now fixed. I also don't know if this is a cold issue, so I don't know if by running it in the shop we warmed it up too much and now it's working. Now we gotta let it cold soak again. I'm not sure. That might be our alternative if we can't reproduce this again. We've got the scope hooked up, hopefully secured fairly well. Our crank sensor is down yonder. We got each one of those 3 channels going into each one of the pins on the crank sensor. So it's got a power, a ground, and a signal. The power on this car actually seems, get this beeping turned off as we roll in here. The power on this particular car is a little unique. It apparently comes from a relay, so I think we're going to have 12 volt power. And then our channel D is going up under the dash to the PCM. Here's our diagram. We've got channels A, B, and C on our sensor, channel D at the PCM. Hopefully one of these will mess up. This from other diagram goes to the PGM FI relay, so we should have B plus coming there. We do actually have that diagram behind it. One would think, there it is, so B down here, going up to this relay. One would think if we have a relay issue, since it feeds other stuff, fuel injectors and whatnot, I would be inclined to think we'd have more than one code than just for crank sensor missing circuit or whatever, missing signal. So that's where our scope's hooked up at. And I think I have some scales, so let's key on. And I think red should jump up to B plus. Got lots of changes. Looks like red is B plus. And then where's channel B? Channel B is going to be our, I should have this in front of me. Channel B is going to be our ground, which is going to be noisy. Let's change the scale on that, just so it's not overwhelming the screen. And then C and D should be our signal. Well, let's go ahead and fire this thing up. Definitely got signal. Battery is charging. Let's zoom in on our scale, hopefully without missing anything. Zoom in a bit further. So we've got exact mirror on our two signal circuits. Let's zoom back out. We'll just do a 500. And we're just going to wait for this thing to stall, I guess. That if and when it stalls, I may just drive it around. We got the cables tied up and whatever. And if and when it stalls, we'll just drive around for a bit and see if we can make it any worse. And we'll see what that scope shows. Well, we just finished the test drive and it drove perfect. No issues, no hiccups, nothing. It seems like still intermittent on this. However, since it did stall those few times when I first started it up, I'm curious if an overnight soak is going to help us again. So what I think is going to happen next is I'm going to leave the scope wires hooked up. We'll pull the VCMI and stuff out. We're just going to bounce to another car for the day. And then by the end of the day today, we'll come back and try to do another start, see if it stalls. And if that doesn't do anything, we're going to have to let it sit overnight and we'll try another start in the morning. But this sucks. It's probably a crank sensor, but man, we test stuff. I don't like guessing on stuff at all. But that's all I know at the moment. So we're going to come back to it tonight and tomorrow morning and see if we can get it to reproduce and then go from there on it. It is the next morning. We have come back out to the fit to do our cold start after a cold soak. Hopefully it's still broken. Last night I did come out here and I totally forgot to film it, and after it sat all day it was a crank no start and there was no signal coming out of the crank position sensor. We still had power, we still had ground, and was missing the signal. Trying to get this tool to connect. What I was trying to catch last night, and I actually did not catch, was it fixing itself again. So it seemed like once it cools off, the issue's present. When the engine warms up, the issue is not present. And so I would like to catch it messing up again. Right now I'm just getting the scope set up. We just plug back into it. And we'll move some of this stuff around like so. So let's flip this. Okay, same as before, we've got power, and then we've got our two signals, one at the sensor, one at the computer, and then we got our ground. Let's go ahead and crank this over. Are you kidding me? It is working right now. So last night, this was a flat 5 volts all the way across. It was just sitting at 5 volts. Actually, I saved the waveform. So let's do an open waveform. Let's do open this one. Here's what we had last night. Excuse me. We've got battery voltage cranking, firing, and this was all that we had for our 5 volts. And excuse me, this is all we had on our signal circuit, both at the sensor and the PCM was 5 volts. And now I'm aggravated that this is not messing up in this moment. That is a good signal. Either way, we need a crank sensor. I'm going to sit and play with this for a minute and see if I can actually catch it to mess up. But we're going to get a crank sensor in it, and that should take care of her. Okay, it literally just stalled. The engine speed's at 0. You can kind of see there. And I just hit pause on the scope. I was getting ready to go in and do some stuff there. Let's unmerge this. There it is. Let's go back one page. Oh, yes. Right there. Can even see battery voltage fall off right afterwards. Let's zoom in real far here and see what happened. There it is. Heck yes. I thought this thing was not going to stall again. Yep, so it looks like it tried right here. Yes, let's take a screenshot of that. Actually, zoom out a little bit so we can see the stall and battery voltage. I'd like to be able to, there it is. Right there. Ground. And screenshot. Oh yeah, that was our stall. Now it's probably going to be a crank no start. So let's set that up. We'll reset our tom base and we'll go ahead and crank. Oh, it came back even. All right, let's watch it one more time. Well, apparently it ain't gonna stall again on us. We've got a sensor on order. When it gets in, I will come back out. We'll reconnect before we pull it in the shop to do that sensor swap, and we'll see if it stalls again then. But looks like we just got a bed sensor on this one. Pretty straightforward. Okay, we are back in this one more time. I'm getting the scoop wires hooked up, and then we will flip over to our actual voltage readings and see what we can figure out. Got 3 out of 4 wires hooked back up. I just left these wires in the car because I didn't want to disturb them or anything with our intermittent issue. All right, let's get this flipped over. There's our scope with a great glare. Let's minimize these two a little bit, and then that should be our ground. That should be power. Let's go ahead and key on. We got power. Oh, we got 5 volts. Oh, it cranked long. Go away. There it is. She's broken again, and she's running. That's it. She's broken since day one, or since first start. I mean, this is what it did last night. It's just a constant high. It's kind of weird that I can't catch it to actually break though. Like I can't catch it when it just gets stuck to 5 volts, or when it gets when it transitions from like stuck to 5 to coming back, or actual signal and then going to stuck 5. I can't actually catch the transition live, other than the one where I showed you back a screen, but I was trying to catch it live here. Anyway, this is getting a sensor. We got a sensor in just a little bit ago. Let's go throw that data in. There was one more thing that I wanted to show you that I forgot. This crank no pulse here at the top. This will actually count down to 0 whenever we have no crank signal, it appears. So if we get both of these up side by side, this one should count down as I go ahead and crank it. As long as this stays at 5 for our signal, the one on the right should count down. So cranking. There it goes. So we are missing our signal. That counts down to 0. And that's it. So this is how that one works. Anytime this is, or just went installed. So, yep, and then that resets. Let's get a new capture of that. Then I'll take a screenshot of that one as well. We'll let this trace here reset and go across to the next one. Actually, we'll stop it. I'm trying to get this for the customer to view. So we will actually do this. Engine speed, and let's do show selected. And then zoom in on this a little. No, that's good. That'd be okay. All right, so this will be our actual capture. So we'll go ahead and crank. Engine speed comes up. Crank no pulse. Counts down. Get a screenshot. And then when it dies, there's a die. Get another one. Oh yeah. All right, let's get a crank sensor in it. Old sensor, new sensor in yonder. That's blurry. New sensor. Also on this, spoke with a customer. Apparently, this crank sensor has been replaced a few times. They've used aftermarket parts, and they said sometimes it will fix it for a while, and then it'll go back to having an issue. So, new sensors in. I assume we're going to have to do a relearn. Let's go inside the car and hook up and see what we got. All right, we are in the car. We just cleared codes. Now we're going to do this crank learn, and I guess we'll clear first. Clear command. Okay, yes. Okay. Please start the engine. Turn the ignition switch to off. Okay. Turn the ignition switch on. Okay. Wait 30 seconds. Okay. The crank pattern has been cleared. Do the learn procedure. Okay. At least I thought I had okay. Crank pattern learning. Vehicle speed 0 park. We're gonna have to warm the engine up. Well, I'll get this engine warmed up and then we'll see. We'll complete it. Yeah, this is what we're looking at. So it's telling me to accelerate the engine until we get to 167. We'll do that. I guess while we're doing that, we can just look at the waveform. I still got the scope channel 4 at the PCM hooked up. The engine's running, so I assume we're going to have a fairly decent waveform. And oh, that's strange. Something's wrong. Maybe my lead fell out. Should still have channel 4. Let me recheck my lead under there and see if it fell out. Nope, I'm just retarded. It would help if you plug your lead in to the VCMI. So let's do that. All right, that lead's plugged in. Oh, hey, look, now we got a crank signal. That's hilarious. Oops, you can't see nothing. Why don't you ever tell me when you can't see nothing? Looks like a fairly standard crank signal, 0 to 5 volts. It looks like 4.95, right about there. Yep, there's our girl. We'll finish warming her up. While I was spacing out, it just went to this screen, says depress the fuel cut, so I guess we'll do that. There's fuel cut. Depress the accelerator until fuel cut again. Okay. And again. Well, this seems like an awful lot. This seems excessive. I don't know why it wants us to do it so many times. I guess so. It seems like it's pegging off the limiter at like 3,000. Oh, 4. Oh, turn the ignition switch to off. We just need to hold the floor longer. The ignition switch off. Please start the engine. All right. Wait 30 seconds. And learning completed. Sweet. I guess that's it. Well, I guess we should probably check for codes. Escape. And escape. And trouble codes. Make sure to read them. Booyah, no codes. Well, this one was fairly straightforward. Seems like, especially after talking to the customer, having multiple multiple aftermarket sensors in here, the OEM was the fix. Parts these days suck, and I tell every customer that comes in. Anyway, I don't really know how helpful this one was. It was pretty easy, pretty straightforward. We're going to go get some fuel in this old girl and take her for a post repair test drive, make sure she's all buttoned up, ready to go. But Regardless, hope it's helpful, and I will catch y'all up in the next video.